Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome to Money on Tap. This is Ben Brashaw, and I'm with
Seth Krusman. How are you doing today, Ben?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
I would normally say fantastic, but I think I've worn a hole
in that word.
in that word. I'm doing good. It's good.
I'm pretty excited about this show. This is the second part to our Robo show. We have a lot of communication with people, as we had mentioned in the last one, about, when do you go with a Robo? When do you not? What are the pros? What are the cons? And we have a very nice list of 5 pros and 5 cons, though we could probably come up with a little bit more. I think we've narrowed it down to a pretty poignant list of things to keep your eyes and ears open for.
Yeah, you don't need Consumer Reports. You've got Ben and Seth.
That's right.
We're here to tell you the facts, folks.
And it was nice.
What's going on?
It was nice having Eric on the show last week. That was nice. He was actually in town here on the East Coast, which was pretty neat. He was here for a surprise 50th wedding anniversary for his parents, which was something we couldn't mention on air because it was a surprise.
Yes.
But
yeah. I didn't think about that, actually. Can you imagine? He had to go to great lengths. He was telling us about posting where he's having coffee in Vancouver, kind of his typical coffee shop, so his mom wouldn't be looking at Facebook, realizing that he's right next door.
I know. It's so funny.
Wow.
That's really very funny.
The lengths that we go to for our parents is extraordinary. I know we talk mostly about what we do for our kids, but the fact is that we really care a lot about our parents as well.
No, I thought that was neat. He wasn't able to get out here with his whole family, but that was pretty cool that they were pretty surprised. They were pretty surprised.
Yeah. And I'm sure the family was happy for them as well.
Yeah.
Hey, you're listening to Money on Tap. Welcome. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we're on social media as well. We've got Twitter going on. I'm Seth Krusman at B as in Bravo, F as in Foxtrot, G as in
girl.
Good golly. That's a lot. _ LLC. And that's Twitter. At Facebook, we're at /3D investing, because that's what we do on this show. And that's what we do at Brashaw Financial Group. We're financial planners that focus on three-dimensional investing for our clientele. And you, our listeners, we appreciate that we get an opportunity to share this with you, some of the good stuff and some of the challenges that go alongside of financial planning and looking at your personal finances. We're passionate about it, and we welcome you to the show.
Yeah, and if you haven't liked us or noted any good comments about us, please do. It helps us. That's
yeah, I wonder if there's fake subscribers. Maybe I should try that. Fake subscribing.
Yeah, right. Right.
Fake news. We're going to get into news.
Yeah, let's get into some news, Seth.
And it's time for Money in the News.
So, Seth, I found this article, and I shared it with you, and I really find it very interesting. Does anyone love their cell phone? I mean, it's kind of, I mean, to use an adjective like love, I mean, it's kind of obnoxious, but at the same time, I mean, the average cell phone's within 4 or 5 feet of its owner with
I was going to say, when's the last time you went cell phone free? Like you just ejected the cell phone for, I don't know, a week?
I heard some statistic. It was out of every 24 hours, 18 to 20 of those hours, your cell phone is within 5 feet of your body.
Mine is now.
Matter
of fact, I'm going to turn off the ringer.
Well, that's good. So everyone has been talking about this, craze about this 5G network coming for our phones, and it's kind of a big deal. I mean, we have all these companies coming out. Matter of fact, the towers are up in a number of cities. If you had a 5G phone, you could actually utilize 5G on some level. I mean, it's kind of interesting. They're starting to come out with these things. Now, it's a big deal. And why is it a big deal, Seth? I mean, that's the whole.
Because China doesn't have it. That's why it's a big deal.
Yeah, right. we are racing to beat China to a full 5G network. It's interesting.
And you take a look at some of the trade wars that are happening as well. There's a disparity there really between the China and the U.S. of what that trade should look like. Our technology and patents. China has thought that this is basically the patents mean that they are entitled to those. Yeah. That technology, and they've stepped over those boundaries and borders. And they're a country that's gone from zero telephone lines and infrastructure to cell phones, a nation of cell phones, like overnight. What 5G is going to do here is really dislocate. And I think if you think of how quickly technology moves forward exponentially, even for a matter of several years, if that technology is not made available to a country, it moves our economy that much further forward.
This is a big deal in so many ways. Like, how fast is it? Now, 5G is as they phrase it, the fifth generation of networks. So we've just tagged it with 5G, and that's, we went 3, 4, 5. So 5G, how fast will it be? Well, the 5G is downloading at a demonstration of about 4.5 gigabytes a second. But they think that the average is going to be around 1.5, 1.4 gigabytes. So to translate that 5G speed, that's roughly, on the slower end, 20 times faster than your 4G phone. 20 times faster. They were actually saying that when you go to think about, downloading a movie before getting on an airline or a TV show or a series, which I do all the time. I'm like, I should download a couple things if I'm traveling. I'll have something to watch if I'm stuck in an airport or something. And it normally takes about 6 minutes on a 4G to download a show. I mean, that's the example they're using. In a 5G environment, it would take you 17 seconds. So they compare this as like planning to download at home and downloading as you're stepping onto the airplane. That's crazy.
When you said 20 times faster, I just realized I was trying to say something and I couldn't even breathe. At that moment, I got so excited.
20 times faster.
20 times. Yeah. Latency, it's the stuff that happens on the VoIP phone. You get this doubling of your voice sometimes, or that delay of your voice. What is this tech going to allow us to do? I think this is stepping into some of the ultra cool stuff around tech. I've been given examples of surgery centers and robotics and how latency can affect that delay of time, where basically what we're going to have is a surgeon in Boston right now performing a surgery across the world, or let's just say in Los Angeles, 3,000 miles away, through a robot. And it's going to be actual time, like real time, zero delay, or the fraction of that delay is so small that it allows that procedure to happen.
I don't know about you, but I'm not there yet. It's true. That's what they're talking about. But I mean, like, if all of a sudden someone clips a line somewhere, somehow in the middle between Boston and LA or something, like, your surgery is over. I mean, that's the stuff. I mean, I know I'm just kidding, but that is putting a lot of pressure on this technology. It is truly that good.
Yeah.
But there's so many moving parts here.
The speed of your cell phone and the download time, cool, but the underlying other areas of tech they're allowing things like AI to push forward, and just so many other layers of really infrastructure that take place through that technology. That, I think, is where we just don't even know. We haven't even seen or heard, and it's huge.
Yeah, no, and I think this has to do with a lot of the, self-driving cars and the different pieces like that.
Yes.
I mean, this is all about
my pizza.
Yeah, this is all about completing instantaneously accurate, or what's perceived instantaneously accurate response.
Yeah.
Right? So if a car is braking in front of you, 5G is probably not the end of the road here on this kind of technology. Yeah. But My concern is like, where is the overlap to cover momentary blind spots? There's so much to this, and I think we're just talking the initial stages. But, this 5G, the 5G conversation is a big investment area that a lot of people are focusing on in 2019, 2020. It's getting a lot of attention in our market space. It's something that we're evaluating, we're looking at, we're monitoring companies. We're interested in who the players are, and that's something that is a potential opportunity for some people who know what they're doing and where they're investing. And you just got to be careful. But 5G, it's going to change and revolutionize a lot of the technology that's limited by the speed. Because, you might find a company who's not performing, not accomplishing what they need to because of the speed of the technology. Once that gets out there, the value of that company might just skyrocket. And that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, some of the end users there might be your Verizons or your telecoms and that kind of source, but really there's the supporting cast to this technology where there's a lot of opportunity to take a look kind of under the hood of that 5G.
I think it's funny that I brought this article to the table, and then you bring an article, Seth, for number 2, the truth about faster internet. It's not worth it. I
brought mine first.
That is true, but I hadn't read it, so I just thought that was really funny. So go ahead, read
I do too. I think it's the flip side of these coins. We always love to take a look at both sides of the issues. That's fair and honest. Americans are spending more for blazing internet speeds on the promise that faster is better. And is that really the case? Is it really the case that 5G on my phone, let's just use that example, when I'm walking through into the airport onto the plane to get my last minute download of the movie I'm going to watch because I'm on a 6-hour flight and I want to have something in 6 seconds versus the, what was it, a minute and a half or whatever, 6 minutes, is that big of a difference? Well, that's potentially true. But what we're talking about is at your house, like right now at my house, I think I've got 50 megabits through Fios, right? Fiber optic that I'm using. Comcast is another, but you see these speeds of 100, 150. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at that the other day and I was going, well, gosh, maybe I really need that because there's some gaming going on, folks. I've got a teenager that really likes, that Xbox or now the computer to stream and game. And it's all about that latency being removed and how quickly he can spin and do whatever he's got to do. And we've got, Netflix going on and the iPad. There's just a life in our homes currently. But the truth is around this that the studies that are coming back is that there's a ton of bandwidth that we're paying for and just isn't even coming close in terms of what are we using.
No, I know. And that's the thing. So, we're talking about all this need for speed, right? And then all of a sudden you realize, well, how much do I really use it for? And
right.
Between 4G
the surgery center in my garage, every once in a while.
Yeah, I know, right? So you need to have some. Now, I'm not saying that there won't be technology in our lives that push the demand for something like that, because that's where technology is going. But right now, today, we don't even need this. Personally, you and I, we don't have the demand. The fact that I can download a Wikipedia question 20 seconds, 20 times faster, I can't even read it that fast, right? So, some of these things are really not relevant to me. But if I do get a self-driving car, darn right this thing's going to be relevant to me. So these are kind of interesting. The way we use internet is so simplistic, so infantile. Our biggest concern is about watching a movie. Right? The download speeds on this stuff is really not that important to our lives. Google Maps or, some of these different things that we use, it's like once I download it, it knows it well enough how to get me there when I need to turn. It's not like I'm lacking the efficiencies of what internet usage I am using on a daily basis today. But as this technology becomes available, they're going to make resources that make the demand for me relevant, I think.
Well, here's the example. Here's what the test came back as well, and I completely agree. I'm kind of reading some of the data here. So there was 34 testers who ran 5 or 6, 7 or 7 streams at once. That's 7 different devices streaming through the internet using speeds of 100 megabytes per second. That's 100 megs or higher. and they only used about 7.1 megs of that speed. That's not even 1/10 of the speed of the 34 testers streaming 7 devices at once, which is, that's eating up. That's about as much as you can possibly do in one house trying to eat bandwidth out of what's available there.
Yeah,
are we going to get there?
But that being said, like all the bandwidth we pay for, how many times is your internet not working?
Now that's a great question, right? And that is the technology, not necessarily the bandwidth. And that's where I've found that really it's the router a lot of the time, and some of the other what's on the other side of that bandwidth that makes the biggest difference for us.
Well, I hope they get a different router at the surgical center than I got, because that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. So. Hey, listen, so our last article plays right into the conversation that we have about pros and cons about Robo Advisors. But I think, one of the things that's going on is that Capital One, which a lot of people are familiar with, the various actors and actresses that, advertise that company, and the credit card, Capital One, that banking institution, they bought United Income, which is a hybrid Robo Advisor focused on investors who are nearing the retirement age or already in retirement. And I think this is interesting because this is very, very timely to what's going on in our conversation here. But they are literally one of many, many banks who are engaging in this, robo acquisition period, is what I call it.
Right. There needs to be you didn't make up a word for that, like robo-acquisition.
I think I did, robo acquisition.
Well, yeah. Who in the world is? What was the name of the bank there? The United Income. There's over two. I think this is a year ago. The data was that there was over 200 robo advisors out there, and we only hear about a handful of them, frankly. But the assets that they had under management was, I think, around $700 million or something like that.
Oh, $740.8 million.
Okay.
This is not chump change. We're nearing $1 billion of management. It's not it's a lot of money. It's not light years in there, but it's a bunch of money.
It's smaller. It's in the version of Robo Advisors out there. This is a much smaller acquisition, but I think it's the idea that's interesting here, where one of the 10 largest banks in the world, Capital One, is buying the market, and that's ultimately what happens when we start seeing technology expressed through startups and all sorts of different companies. It's how do they grow? They buy. How do they get into the market? They buy. And what I did like about the United Income was that it was really focused on a demographic that we spend a lot of time with, which is income, developing income in retirement.
Well, I think that's what's interesting, right? So we have people who are either in retirement or getting near retirement, and that's the push, that's the focus. And why is that the focus? And honestly, United Income was pretty smart in that, because that's where the money is. People who have had time to put money away and save, they're not the younger generation necessarily that most robos are actually going after. Most robos are going after the younger generation for a lot of reasons, because of just access and need. We're going to get into that, but this is interesting because they're focusing on the person who is dependent on these resources.
Which is not the typical robo mode.
Right.
Gosh, I want to make up a word as cool as yours.
Yeah, no,
Row mode.
Row mode. Well, no, you're right. It is completely against the demographic that the Robo Advisor is marketing to almost on an everyday basis, that of all the pieces we have. So, but we're gonna jump into that pretty quickly here. So,
hey, you've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about Robo Advisors today. Second part of our show, iRobo. A lot of fun. We're going to get into really kind of some of the pros and cons. I think that's where we're going to bake this show in at the end here, is really give you some takeaways, right? What do you need to know? What's under the hood? You're listening to Money on Tap. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we're doing here on this show for you today. We're talking specifically about Robo Advisors. It's technology that's been around for a while. We've been using it for a long time in our practices of planning and financial planning. The expression of that, or the next layer of that, has been getting it out into the public and allowing, creating an interface with the marketplace out there, you, an investor, to work through your assets, grow your assets, and develop your assets through, frankly, the Robo Advisor platform is typically a low fee environment. It's got some really cool things in the technology that allows you to take a look in developing your assets and your program there. Anyways, it's got some pros and cons, and we're going to talk about what are the pros and cons in Robo Advisors. And I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, well, I mean, you just brought up number one, I think, for the pros. I mean, this is the thing. There's 5 pros that we've dug out of here. We've got 5 cons. We've ripped this thing apart, and we are, like as Seth said, we're not newbies to the Robo Advisor. It's been in our industry and been used by financial planners for we're approaching 20 years, and it's not something that's completely unknown, or it's just becoming publicized, and it's becoming accessible to the public on a regular basis. And so one of the things, Seth, as you mentioned, is low cost. Like, a lot of people look at the cost of a planner and say, you know what, if I could take that off, there's a certain percentage that is in my pocket. And, there's 2 types of investing. There's active and there's passive. And some people say, hey, set it and forget it, right? I mean, so why not just set it and forget it for something that's cheaper than what I currently have? So there's those types of robo plans, which are buying index or indexing or index funds or things along those lines. But there's other types of robo acquisitions that people can make, which are like time-dated assets. And say, hey, and that's where that article with United was talking about how they're focused on retirement plans and people who are in retirement and focusing on retirement. The time-dated retirement plan funds, they're strategically investing in equities and bonds and kind of altering that mix as you move forward in life and as you get closer to your retirement date. So you say, hey, listen, I'm going to retire in 2035, and so therefore I'm going to check that fund, and I expect them to alter the allocations as time goes on in a way that will meet that scope and goal that I'm looking for. And so low cost is something to say, hey, listen, I can buy this resource, this option, for something that's going to save me a fee that might be, 1.5%, 2%. Who knows what you could be paying at a planner, and so forth. So, hey, Seth, low cost, option number one.
I like saving money, and I think if there's a way to accomplish your goals for less, that's great. I mean, that's one of the things that competition drives in a marketplace, and in innovation as well. And I think that's where the next step is here, is what do we really like about the Robo Advisor platform is an ease of use. And it's so nice to be able to push that easy button.
Right? I mean, that's the thing. This is one of the things that we can't, we can't tell people hard, well enough, easy enough. it's not hard to meet with a planner. But sometimes the fear of that is so much bigger, right? Then it's like the fear of going to the dentist. What's it really going to look like? What's it going to feel like? It's not that bad. It's not bad at all. Sometimes it's fun. I had somebody in the office the other day, and they were like, came in as a referral, and they just walked through the door. We just chatted about it. And they're like, wow, there's so much stuff here that I was so concerned about that I had no idea there were solutions for. And, just that kind of perspective. So on the same side, what is easy about Robo Advisors is it's point and click. It's a delay for the real solve for a lot of people, but for some people it is the solve, and that's okay, but it's easy. It doesn't involve you leaving your home. It doesn't potentially involve you setting up an appointment. It doesn't involve you leaving work early. It doesn't involve a lot of those pieces, but it does get your money invested with potentially a lot less effort. Fair enough?
Yeah. You said it. Yeah. With the way that you can sign documents now, how much paperwork it can be involved in the compliance end and the all the paperwork that goes into the disclosures in our industry, that can be done online. Yeah. The risk assessment, which is a part of that technology piece, really, that comes, we were talking about the target date. Ben was talking about target date funds. If you've had a 401k or if you've had a simple or a SEP or something like that, any kind of a retirement account out there for 403b, they're going to have in that 30 investments available. They're going to have the target date fund that says, I want to retire in 2055. So we've seen those. We understand, hey, early on in that trajectory, it's going to be mostly equities, stocks. They're going to be what they're going to be putting in the front end. And then as you go through that glide path towards your target date, it's going to shift more towards those bond allocations. And so that does not take into account, however, your personal risk. Like, how much volatility can you take?
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the things. There's been a lot of lawsuits over the time date funds because they're either being accused of having too little risk or too much risk, depending on the person and the scenario and the time. And, so they have been kind of problematic. Now, this kind of is interesting because what has made these robo programs really easy for a lot of people to like you think yourself, a lot of people come from the domain that they sit with a financial planner and they do planning and they do investing and they have a stockbroker, all that kind of history around the marketplace. But why have robos been so easy to acclimate to the investing world, and why have they picked up so much money? And I attribute it to the 401k world, because the 401k marketplace has been embracing robo programs forever. I mean, as long as, for the last 20 years, I have seen a lot of these robo programs just, erupt out of the 401k marketplace. And then when people start saying, well, I've got these other dollars, what do I do now? They're saying, well, I'll just do what I'm doing in my 401k because that seems to have worked for me. But one thing that I realize, and I do this pretty often with a lot of clients, is how much money are you making in your 401k? And what a lot of people don't realize is they equate their contributions, even though they know mentally that's not what they're making. They equate their contributions to part of their return. They're like, well, man, my account.
So I threw 5,000 in my 401k and I've grown my 401k by
it's always
7,000.
Yeah, it's usually always getting bigger. It goes down a little bit here and there, but it's always usually getting bigger. And they fail to realize that they're adding money to that thing on a regular basis, or the company is. And that's not really part of your rate of return. So you have to be aware of that. I think that's one of the things. But I think the attraction to Robo Advisors, which, obviously we're financial planners and we do have a little bias of the right way to do it. It's kind of like, do I want to hire a general contractor or am I going to build the garage myself? The thing is a lot of people think of it as like a secondary asset. The problem is it's not building your garage.
Yeah.
It's building your home. You're building your house. You're building the place where you're going to sleep. Is it going to leak? Is the foundation going to work? So those are the types of things, and we've talked a little bit about that. But the next one I wanted to cover, I'm going to skip, Seth, because I have something I wanted to do on 4 and 5 on the pros. I want to go to the last one, which was low minimum balances, because I think this kind of falls suit right there. one of the biggest opportunities, and I think probably one of the greatest starters allowing Robo Advisors really to grow, is that anyone can almost own one of these things. You don't need some of the minimum balances that some investments have or financial planners have or some of those things. I think this is great because there's so many people out there. We want them to get started, and they're fearful or started. And the marketing side of this has been fantastic in saying, "Hey, listen, come with whatever you got. Let's get you going." Robo's got it. A lot of people don't realize that a financial planner can push you into a robo as well, and you can kind of get some secondary advice.
Yeah, I don't know if you picked up on my silent scorn there while you were switching gears on me and shuffling these around, but that's what I was doing.
It was some silent scorn. I could see it. I could actually see it in your face a little bit.
So I'm going to get us back on track, and we're going to talk about the Nobel Prize winning algorithms that are available. So the technology, the math, and what's going on behind these, where do they come from? A lot of these are sourcing very high-end award-winning processes. And so without getting into the details on that, it's nice that those are going on inside of this. And some of that can be in terms of the risk assessment that we use regularly through some programs. That's some Nobel Prize winning technology and mathematics that have gone behind understanding how people relate to risk. And that's more of a behavioral financing type of a scenario. And we do a lot of that in interacting with assets and clients, and how do they interact with their money, and what parts of their money do they interact with that. And so there's a little bit of that going on behind the scenes. And that's one of the things I like.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, some of the math done on this, the piece that your average stockbroker is not going to be able to do is tax efficiency and rebalancing well. I mean, that's one of the things where the robo systems come in tremendously helpful, even for us, right? So, I mean, some of the balancing of that, separate from the tactical management work that we do, if you're just actively managing, trying to bring out tax efficiency when the yield is, and so forth, that's something that's really hard to handle on a straight up stock basis, right?
Yeah.
Now, but there's another piece to this.
Could you tell? I want you to inform our listeners why that is, because I mean, there's a couple of different places. Location. We talk about qualified, non-qualified, and this is a non-qualified discussion that we're having, or a taxable discussion. And why is that critical? What do we see there?
Well, I think I was going to actually get into two components, but I'll add that in there. So there's a couple pieces, right? So if you're married filing jointly and you make $483,000, once you go over that number, right? That's a huge number. But once you go over that, you go from 15% long-term cap gains to 20% long-term cap gains. Now, there's two different things, right? So if you're doing tax harvesting, which is selling things that you've made money on and selling things you've lost money on to try to mix up your gains, right? Well, you also have to figure out what gain you're in. So your stockbroker, is selling a stock at, XYZ, and they're trying to figure out mathematically, okay, well, we should probably also sell this and maybe that. And, and they're trying to break down and try to wash out. So you're only paying the amount of taxes you really need to pay, and trying to get rid of some of the stuff that's maybe failed to perform the way you had hoped in the initial purchase. But then you have to know, well, what long-term cap gains rate am I at, right? So there's kind of some dimensional pieces, and probably this is where the robo piece doesn't play into your overall tax situation. That's where the planner does. But looking at tax efficiency on kind of a global scale, when you're using a robo advisor, some of these questions, some of these more advanced robo advisors are looking at, they do assess your income and stuff like that. Now, how they actually play into it's going to depend on each program. But if all your money's with the same robo, that's going to be helpful, because just managing the overall flux and the qualified, non-qualified conversation, Seth, that you're kind of alluding to, the kind of the pre-tax, that qualified sector, that's your 401k, your IRA, that's not going to really matter in the tax efficiency side. Now, a lot of people who use robos, this tax efficiency is not going to be of any value. But the technology piece of rebalancing that it comes with is really helpful for the qualified side because it's pre-tax. You're not going to pay any taxes. It's in a tax-deferred status on the qualified nature, where the kind of the after-tax dollars, those non-qualified assets, yeah, you're going to receive both tax efficiency and a rebalancing structure that's going to be able to manage through that.
And it is what you want to do, and it's probably not what you're doing in your 401k presently. There's the statistics around how many people actually rebalance those portfolios is astounding. How many people don't pay attention,
right?
And that's okay.
And that's true. That's true if you're selecting individual sub accounts, right? I mean,
right,
or mutual fund accounts or whatever you're selecting inside your 401k. But if you're selecting these robo options, which some people are selecting a little bit of everything. Then you get into a whole nother problem of, overlapping, in assets, right? Being overweighted or underweighted in something. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Tangenting me
here. So what was the fifth one here that you had here, Ben?
Well, this is the thing that I think is probably the number one reason people should consider a robo program. So if you're not going to call us, and that's just off the plate, it's just the fact that robos have expanded the amount of financial advice across the board. And why do I think this is so super important is because with the demographic of baby boomers retiring, and it's like another 30% or 25% of America's retiring, whatever the number is here, it's just enormous. Another 90 million out of the 300 and some odd million Americans still to retire. Inside that group of retirees, okay, the vast majority of our workforce, the financial planning workforce, it's well over 50%. I think it's nearing 70% of the financial planners in this world are retiring. And so the fact that there's expanded advice, right? So if all of a sudden us as a resource, we become a commodity, we become something that people need more of, right? But we can only help so many people. We're going to be a limited resource very quickly over the next 20 years. And that conversation, right, means that we need more resources for people to get financial advice because obviously we're going to take the higher net worth people faster and faster. I mean, that's just the way it works, right? I mean, that's how our world is. And we need strong financial advice. And the place for the I embrace the robo advisor. Even though these people say, oh, well, Robo's your enemy. It's like, no. Robo's my friend because I need people not to call me until their assets are kind of to a point in time where, it makes sense. But right now, that's not the case. And I think if you can find a planner who's going to basically be in the business while you're retired, that's the person you want. You want to find both competent and younger people. You don't want to find somebody who's a few years away from retirement. And for people who are in our office, we have exit strategies with them. I mean, we have people that we work with who are older, and they're like, "Hey, listen, that whole offering to care for those people rolls into the office itself, and so you still have a resource to get true financial planning." But I think when people kind of run scared from the robo-advisor in our industry, Seth, we fail to realize it's our friend in so many ways.
And I need a friend. Normally I don't say what Ben says, but in this circumstance, I'm going to go with what Ben says. That was a very complete. That was a very complete idea, and I 100% agree with what you're saying there. We need people, we need services, we need ways, we need multiple ways to help people in the process of accumulating and getting towards a goal of retirement. It's a very one-dimensional program. It's really what the Robo Advisor does, but it's a simple solve to get into that place where you now need to have these conversations with us, and there's more to take a look at. There's a larger, fuller spectrum that we can put to use our expertise really to get you into the best place possible, into a successful experience. So I think we're going to take a break right now. We're going to be back with the cons of the Robo Advisor, and or what we see as the cons of the Robo Advisor. You are listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Hi, my name is Seth Crustman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. We are talking about Robo Advisors, wrapping up a two-part show here of iRobo. Last bit that we left there with is we love the Robo Advisor. We embrace the Robo Advisor. Ben, I had this image of you and the Robo Advisor are like your arm over Robo Advisor. Can we get a picture of that maybe? But I got to tell you, folks, it's not all love for Robo Advisors here at Money on Tap. We do have some cons and some takeaways here. And you might think it's kind of funny that a couple of financial planners are saying, hey, yeah, we love Robo Advisors and these are the great things about them. We're kind of agnostic, frankly, when it comes to a lot of what it is that we're looking at. And it's how do we use it to the best ability for our clients? That's always a perspective we're going to have here at Money on Tap. And so in that sense, yeah, we love what Robo Advisors are offering our clients and how they're using them and interacting with them. But we do also see the downside here. And to start us off, there is a little bit of falsehood going on, a little falsehood in the low cost of their financial advice there, folks. It's not all low cost for you. Can you believe that? They tell you one thing and then they do another. How's that possible?
No, well, I mean, you got to be careful, right? So some of the no, I'm not saying to you, Seth. I mean, well, some of these robos are more expensive than maybe just straight up index funds. That's one scenario. And then depending on the complexity of the Robo Advisor and depending on what maybe a financial planner or investment advisor might charge, you could start getting into some competitive resources. So you got to be careful because there are some companies out there who are marketing the fact that they are cheaper than some of the actively managed robo funds, kind of the time-dated stamp funds and stuff like that. So you got to really be aware of what you're actually being charged. Just because it's a robo concept doesn't mean it's the cheapest thing if that's what you're going after on the marketplace for that offering.
Yeah. I mean, the same rules apply. There's going to be funds that they are using. There's going to be platform fees and getting the full picture and getting pulling all those pieces together. That's what you got to take a look at. And so it's not always the cheapest way to fly. I think that's the same experience speaking of flying, that's the same experience I've had when I got the super low flight and I show up and they're like, $80 for the bag. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have flown business class.
Yeah, right. No, I know. We were just doing that the other day. We were getting ready to send our daughter off to college and we were looking at, you look at the baggage fees of these places, it's like, just like, hey, I need to get a one-way trip for her. I need, we got all this stuff going.
I get one-way trips for all my kids. I'm just like,
yeah, I've got all
send
them. I'm sending mine your way. Okay, so, but that is true. You need to be careful of the nickel and diming because some of that stuff can apply, and you just need to be aware of it. But number two, robo advisors. The obvious here, right, are not financial planners.
Very true. I get that question a lot. Like, what do you do? You're a financial planner. What do you do?
What
and
does
it gets
that
a little.
entail? Yeah, I mean, right, Seth? I mean, people think it's just about like investing assets.
Start talking a little like this. Like, I don't understand.
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, people don't really know what we do, and but face-to-face meetings and digging through your assets and trying to understand what the very best thing is, because it's not just about that. I mean, when we meet with people, we're evaluating pensions, we're evaluating life insurance, we're evaluating investment strategies, we're balancing overall allocation models, we're looking at your 401k and making sure that some of your other stuff is not unbalanced or is balanced according to how your risk tolerance is. We're protecting you from some of the stuff that might befall you because you just don't have enough understanding of what's out there and what risk you might be buying.
Yeah.
That's
I go to the 3-dimensional piece there. We talk about the 3-dimensional planning if you've listened to Money on Tap for any period of time, guess what? We talked about insurance. We talked about its place in protecting assets for special cases where you can use, and I mean, just the different vehicles that there are. These are locations, these are vehicles, they have specific purposes. Accumulation is required in order to do distribution later on. Right. So we have to have that vehicle in place before we set distribution into modes. But it's go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no, you're all over it, Seth. I mean, it's the transition, right? It's the accumulation phase, shifting to the distribution phase, knowing how to do that in the most successful opportunity, the most opportune time, taking advantage of your taxes, your income distributions, your just all the different pieces, like pulling it all together and making sure it fits. Like that's the one thing that when those people left the other day, she's like, man, all the concerns we've talked about, I feel so much better knowing that you have pieces to solve and work through some of the details and ask me. And she even said, ask me the right questions to know how to respond. There's a whole concept to that. It's so much more than investing, though. Investing has to be there, and that is obviously a key piece.
Well, one expression of the investing that you were talking about was the tax loss harvesting, right? That's one expression or one mode of accumulation in order to retain more of what you've earned. And so that earning retention is a part of what we take a look at, and that's an efficiency in the investing world. So,
but most of the work we have to do, and most of the stuff that we do in the tax world, I mean, we're not even allowed to talk about it on radio. I mean, to be completely frank, and that's okay.
Well, but I'm getting censored all the time. I'm sure there's probably.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's the thing.
Folks, you hear like 1/8 of what I say.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to get a foghorn beep. So
that would be nice.
But that's I mean, but that's the thing, right? So there's so much to financial planning that's so far outside the scope of the everyday person. That's okay, though, and understanding that there's more out there is really the point, I think.
Yeah. I had it described as it's like playing a game of chess, but then you throw another layer of Mancala. Or another risk or another strategy game over the top of it, and so you create like there's different styles, different games, different
rules.
Game of
Go. Do you ever hear about the game of Go? It's like 10 times more complex than chess. Like chess is a difficulty of 12, and Go.
I'm not
is
smart enough for that.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, so we've got that's the second one. The third one here, and I've written this down a couple different ways, but I'm going to go with this one. The cons of Robo Advisors is they don't guarantee performance. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's no security that guarantees performance. Okay, so that's the disclosure piece here. But there's kind of this perceived thing that goes on with robos, that especially the time-dated funds, because this is why all the lawsuits exist, that I'm cared for because I've selected the day and year I want to retire, and it should all work out. Right? So there's this kind of perceived like protective status inside these time-dated funds. And I want to throw that out as a con because I don't think there's enough transparency. We wouldn't have all the lawsuits that exist inside these things if there was, right? If there wasn't kind of this this kind of communicated, well, if you're going to retire in 2035, this is the fund you need to own, as if that's a bucket. I think I think the robo-advisor scenario should not be time dated. I think the robo-advisor offering should be indice offered. I think it should be a passive program alone based on an index. And if you're qualified for that amount of risk to any one of those indices, then you can buy those accordingly. I just don't think – I think there's just too much perception there that there's some sort of like care for you in some quantitative understanding that you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the other thing, one of the other how many more do we have here? We've got 3 more?
We got
two more.
2 more.
All right. So the little guy, right, or gal is that this is the only way to go. If you don't have a lot of money to start investing, that the only way that you're going to get on the board here is in one of these programs. And that's not true.
That's just not true. I mean, there's just so many programs. We've got starter programs. Planners got starter programs. A lot of people we're constantly trying to bring younger people into the industry to help grow the industry and so forth. And those people are looking for clients. Those people are looking to work with people. We're looking to work with people. That's, this is part of who we are. I mean, Brayshaw Financial Group, we've got a lot of people. We've got a lot of offices. We got people to help you. But the truth is that it's not the only option. So some people feel like I've got to go this way, but that's not really their comfort zone. So if you're not comfortable with that, you really feel like, hey, listen, every penny I work for is important to me, and I'm just not willing to put it in a computer system's hands just yet, well, then this isn't the only option for you.
Yeah. All right. Last but certainly not least is that you have limited investment options. And I mean, there's a very broad swath of what they have inside there, like your index funds. There's all sorts of types of index funds, styles of index funds. And what we're saying in this is that you get what you get. You're going to go ahead and pour into a model based off of your risk or your goals, your objectives, and they're really going to just give you a very small flavor for what is in the world of investments or in the universe of investments of how to accomplish that one-dimensional goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I would say that this swath covers the majority of what people need most of the time. So this is, pretty helpful, right? So, but when it comes to the complexity pieces, like the outreaching resources, you're never going to know if you need those other outreaching pieces to impact yourself financially in one way or another.
It's going to be market-based.
Yeah. It's a market.
There's always going to be a market of some market interaction, and some of the time we're definitely taking a look at how do we dislocate.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can't really I think, Seth, when I think of limited investment options, the one thing I want to tell the person who's not talking to us, what aren't you making because you don't know what you don't know yet? Right? I mean, what other investments out there will impact either a more positive tax scenario to allow the robo piece that you should have or could have relevant? Or, there's a point in time where people just don't know what they don't know, and they may not be taking advantage of areas that they should be investing or strategies that they should be doing that they need someone to help them with. So the con of the limited investment option is that you may not be able to accomplish, even if you knew what you needed to buy. Like, even if you had all the knowledge, you couldn't get it all out of there.
That's it. You have been listening to Money on Tap, iRobo, part 2.
iRobo, you Robo.
we Robo. It's been a lot of fun. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We really enjoy technology a lot, and we use it all the time. It simplifies and makes life so much easier for us in a lot of areas. So we're excited about the opportunity that you have to participate with your investments through Robo Advisors. And we're also here for you to help you understand what are the limitations, what is its place, and how can you create your plan, and how do you create success inside of investing so that you can get where you need to be and where you want to be to accomplish your goals. One part of it, technology, and it's a lot of fun. And we're glad you're here with us. Ben, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Seth.
Have a great one.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.